Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Lefebvre, and today we're going to be painting some layered flowers. Now this is the perfect painting for a beginner that gives you absolutely gorgeous results that you can use for greeting cards, birthday cards, or even beautiful art around your home. And not only that, it helps you practice one of the most difficult techniques in watercolor, and that is water control. So let's jump in and get started. Okay, so today we are going to be painting some layered flowers. Like I said in the intro, I am painting in my Etcher Lab cold press watercolor sketchbook. This is like the last page of my floral sketchbook, which is crazy. I'm using my Shinhan watercolors, and I have my round brush in a size 8. You can use whatever brush feels good. You don't need anything specific, but we're gonna get started. Okay, so the key to painting layered flowers is using really light transparent layers. So watercolor is a transparent medium. The more paint you use, the more, not opaque it will be, the darker the value will be, but the lighter you make your value, so the more watered down it is, the more transparent it is, and you can see through it. And using less water and making lighter values is quite a skill that people tend to get frustrated with because it can be difficult, but I'm going to show you all about that today. We're going to make it simple, and the idea is you need a lot less than you think. Less is more with this. Okay, so you don't want to wet your brush like crazy and grab a whole bunch of pigment. You don't want this where it's like super, super opaque. Really what you want is just the tiniest bit. So you're gonna see me dabbing my brush on my paper towel lots, using minimal amounts of paints and water for this technique, and just try and have fun. Okay. So the other great thing about this is that you need to allow some drying time in between so you can go nice and slow. It doesn't have to be super fast and rushed. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is you can pick different colors, pick an idea of a flower that you'd like to do. You could do poppies, tulips like I showed earlier, whatever you want to do, and you're going to be painting one petal at a time. So right now, my brush is wet. There's a difference between like sopping wet when you have like drips coming off of it, and then wet where it's damp. Maybe you tap it on your paper towel a little bit, but enough that you can pick up some color. So as you see here, I put some watercolor already. My brush is clean, wet. All I'm gonna do, instead of going all in this paint, I'm just gonna take a little bit of it. And that helps to get a light value. Instead of, watering your paints down, just wet your brush and just touch it gently so you only pick up a little amount of paint. So I'm going to start with my permanent rose, and I'm going to do, I don't know what flowers I'm going to do. Maybe I'll do like a different variety of flowers. I'm going to start off with one petal. So see how it's lighter in value? And I'm just going to create this kind of jagged petal like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of push that pigment around, and I actually want it to be a little bit darker towards the edges. So I'm just going to try and take any of that paint, push it around to the edges of the petal. If you want to take a little bit more color, I literally just dabbed it just a tiny bit like that, and you can just add a little bit more pigment to the sides. And if you want to do a little bit more towards the base, just again, grabbing the smallest amount of paint. I'm just tapping my brush into that paint. I think one thing I see as beginners when I say pick up paint, they go like this and they pick up all the paint there. And you end up having so much paint on your brush, and it's way more than you need. So really, I think one of the best ways to do it is put a lot of paint in your palette in a mixing well. Wash off your brush. Yes, you're wasting a little bit of paint. It's fine. Dab it on your paper towel, and then when you're ready to pick up your color, you just pick up a little bit with the tip of your brush. That is a huge thing that helps with water control, so you're not, and I know it's kind of water control, kind of paint control, but essentially you're not picking up a lot of paint, and here there's also a lot of water, so you're not picking up a ton. Less is more. And also, like I said, when you are cleaning off your brush, run it against the side of the jar, but also tap it on your paper towel to take off any of that excess water. It just helps control the situation. Okay, so there we have one petal. Now, one thing I kind of like to do with this is change up the colors of the petals just slightly. So I might even add some yellow in there just to get a different hue. And my brush is a little bit dry. I can feel it. So I'm just going to take a little bit and then I'm going to do another petal. This one, again, see how I can tell how dry my brush is? I see a little bit of dry brush action there. I'm just going to wet my brush. Also helps to lighten the watercolor. I'm just going to do another petal here, kind of jagged edges. Now, if it's a little too dark, what I like to do is wash off my brush, dry it a bit, and kind of lift that color. I'm actually going to try and push that color to the edges. Just kind of moving it towards the edges. And then any water and paint I kind of collect on the tip of my brush, I'm just tapping around the edges like that. Okay, so we're doing layered flowers. You do not want these petals to touch. Okay, I'm going to wash off my brush just a bit. I'm going to go back in. My brush is clean and wet. Take just a little bit of pigment, and I'm going to do another petal. Okay, I might add a little bit more water. You'll know how much water you need to pick up depending on when you're laying down your paint. If you're getting that kind of dry brush effect where it's not a solid wash, you need a little bit more water. And when I put my brush in my water, I don't dab it up and down. I just take a little bit on the tip of my brush. Okay, like I said, less is more. Go for less. Less is always more. It's easier to add than to take away. Okay, so there's another petal. I'm going to just add a little bit more color to the ends. So again, I just picked up the tiniest amount. Where people run into trouble with that when I say add a little bit more darker color, they pick up too much color. Just tap your brush in just so slightly. Okay, you don't have a lot of pigment on your brush, you don't have a lot of water, and that makes a huge difference. All right, and then I'm going to do one last one, maybe with this peachy color again. Not going to touch either petals. Okay, because we're going to have some layered petals over top. So the layered effect is the effect that you get when you layer a wet petal over a dry petal. So you need to make sure it's extremely dry, because with watercolor, you get a really cool effect when two wet paints touch each other, and that's called a color bleed, or it could be wet on wet. For this, we want things to be dry, so you see that separation and that transparency. Okay, so we're going to leave that one like that. Let's do another color. Let's just have fun here. Okay, I'm going to grab some purple, and I'm going to do maybe like a side facing flower. So I'm going to do one petal going over this way. Okay, with our lighter wash, push some of that pigment to the edges. Okay, and you shouldn't be getting any pooling. Pooling is when you have a bunch of water in one area and it's like a little pool. You don't want that. You shouldn't be getting that much pooling because you shouldn't be having a lot of water on your brush. Now this is why this is such a good painting to practice with, because this helps you control smaller amounts of water. When I use lots of water, I usually use it for a background of a painting, like a sky or, you know, for a landscape. When I'm doing my florals, I don't tend to use a lot of water. So just keep that in mind. You want to try and use less. Okay, I'm going to do another petal here. Just pushing some of that color around to the sides. Like that. Okay, we'll do that, and then let's do another one. I want a bit more pink. I'm gonna do maybe one up here. So this is gonna be a little bit brighter, but not too dark. Another reason why you do not want to use a lot of paint is because when we're layering, because watercolor can be reactivated by water, if you have a thick layer of paint on your paper, if you try and paint over it with another color, there is a chance that you can reactivate that first layer underneath, and then it lifts up the paint, which is not what we want to do. We want to cover that layer. We do not want to lift it up. So try not to use, again, a a lot of paint. Let's add a little bit of yellow. Let's do like side view. I honestly don't even know what petals I'm doing, what flower I'm doing. No idea. Just painting petals. Now you can do just all one color as well if you want to start with the practice. I'm just kind of having fun and just letting loose and just seeing what happens with just using different colors. But you can definitely use just one color like I did for this. This was all done with one color. Whatever feels good to you. Okay, so before we let it completely dry and do our layers, I'm going to do some stems because we're actually going to layer some leaves as well. So I'm just going to have the stem kind of come down here for this one. This one's coming out the side like that. These are more whimsical kind of flowers. And I'm not going to have them touch the petals. I'm just going to do like a little backing like that. Except for this one. And I'm going to start with one leaf. Now these leaves I'm going to do a little bit more longer. I'm just using light pressure, then heavy pressure, then light pressure and lifting up. And I'm just using my olive green. I'm going to curve it. Just have fun with shapes and movement. Like that's a little weird, but that's fine. Let's do one more. Okay. And now we're going to let this completely dry. So you can walk away and do like a couple chores around the house if you want. One thing that I love that I always use, my heat tool. I've had this since the beginning for embossing when I was doing calligraphy, but this is really handy. Or if you have a really kind of like low powered hair dryer to help dry or help speed up the drying process. So I'm just going to dry this quickly. And we're ready to continue. Okay, so these are looking a little piecey. We want to make them look nice and full. So now we are going to start layering. I'm going to grab a little bit more yellow. Again, like look how much color I have on my brush here or on my palette. I don't need that much when I'm actually painting. So I'm mixing the color I want. I'm going to wash it off a little bit so I get a lighter wash. Okay, and then watch this magic. So you're going to layer over 2 petals. Okay. And this is where the beautiful transparent nature of watercolor really shines, when you can layer colors on top and you get new colors, you get these beautiful edges. It's just so much fun to do. So I'm just going to add a little bit more pigment to the base of it, maybe a little bit around like that. Okay, and you don't want to keep going over it and over it and over it and over it, because like I said, you might end up lifting some of the color underneath, which you don't want to do. You don't want to lift up that layer. You want that nice crisp line of that previous petal. But if you keep going over it and over it, you're going to kind of blend out that line, which you don't want. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Let's do another one. I might even do another petal here after. So I'm not going, you can go really light, you can go like a medium. You don't want to go too dark with your color because you do want to be able to see that layer underneath. See how it just starts to come to life? Like so. Now it's not going to be done. We're going to do more layers of petals, but I'm just going to leave that one like that. All right, let's do this purpley. We can even layer purple over this one. Why not? Do keep in mind that when you layer a color over another one, it does change the color. So see here, I'm layering this purple, oops, over this orange, and they are almost kind of contrasting colors of each other. Really, it's purple and yellow, but orange has yellow in it. So you're going to get that more muted brownish color underneath. So if you don't like that, don't do that. Be mindful of what colors you are layering, but I don't find it a big deal because it is such a light wash of it. It's not like an intense brown that's kind of ruining it or anything. Like that. See that? So pretty. Okay. Let's do some more pink for this one. And we're going to do a few layers. Maybe I'll have this one have a smaller little petal here. A thinner petal. Why not? Okay. Like that. That one kind of looks like a butterfly, which is super fun. And then let's do the same thing with our leaves. So I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to this green just for a change. And I'm going to go right across this leaf and give it a nice layering effect. And this is basically all you do. So I'm going to speed this up. I'm going to do another layer of petals, and then I will show you the end, how you can kind of create a center, and that's about it. All right, and then finally, if you just want to kind of, you know, end with some sort of, you know, darker center to just kind of bring it to life, you can do a little center like that with some lines, some dots, and that's about it. So this is the final painting. So much fun to do. You can honestly do this for a little, you know, cards, like I said, or artwork around your house. You could do one singular color. You could do, you know, maybe just two. Whatever you feel works the best for you, give it a try and practice this when you have nothing else to paint, because it is a great practice for water control and really building on those light transparent layers. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.